welcome to the very first episode of Post Credits with Gil Garcia. I am your host, Gil, and today's episode is going to be an introduction to this podcast, what my overall goals are here, and what you can come to expect in the next few months. First and foremost, I want to thank you for joining me today on today's episode. This is the very first one for Post Credits. To give you a little bit of a backstory on my personal life, I graduated from Cal State LA in 2014 with a bachelor's degree in radio and film television production. I worked for G4 Television as an assistant producer and editor, in which I segued to other freelance editing works on other programs and television shows. Up until about 2016, I decided to leave the industry, in which I pursued a podcast and a movie review website of my own, including a video game website. The movie review website was called Cinematics, and the video game website was called Gamers HUD, and later called Verified Gamers. We shut down the websites simultaneously around 2017. I used to do my show with my best friends, my film school buddies, and a community of gamers. The website and the podcast was no longer sustainable when we got more busy with our personal lives and work. We decided to cut it off. It was a lot of fun to do, but unfortunately it was a lot of work as well, and we couldn't keep it up. So this brings us to post credits. So for the past couple of years, I've been itching to do another podcast and to start writing and flexing my creative muscles, which means that I watch a lot of movies. I will see anything from Elemental to Ruby Gillman's Teenage Kraken. I want to be at the movie theaters. I want to try and patronize theaters as long as possible, because there's nothing more exciting to me than a night out at the movies. And I want to try and keep them alive as long as I can, because I love the immersion of going to a movie and just soaking in the film the way the filmmakers intended. And that's why this podcast is important to me, because I want to showcase my passion for film theory and filmmaking, as well as give you guys insight and information into these movies that come out. It's very easy for someone to just boot up Netflix, boot up Disney Plus, watch the latest new release movie on Max, and call it a piece of trash and then go away. But if you understand like the way that these movies are made and just the passion behind them, perhaps you'd get a little bit of a different perspective on things. And that's what I want to do here with post credits. So I decided that this podcast is going to be broken up into 3 segments, very much like a film. So going forward, every episode is going to have 3 acts, much like you would in a film. The first act is going to be the intro and discussions. I'm going to talk about what the film synopsis is, what my movie-going experience is, and how I felt going into the movie. The second act is going to be my spoiler-free review. This is important because I want to give you the impression of what I thought about the film without you having to go see the movie first and foremost. So normally I'll say something like, oh yeah, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was a very mediocre experience at the movie theater, and so on and so forth. So that's just an example of what I would do for my spoiler-free review. Give you insights and little details as to what I thought about the movie without giving too much of the plot points away, so that you can decide for yourself whether you want to watch the film or not. Act 3 is going to be all about the performance and filmmaking aspect of the film, where I'm going to break down the box office numbers, the critical response, the audience response to the film, break down some of the trivia that goes down behind the scenes, and little tidbits like that. So then after I do the breakdown of the third act, I'm going to wrap up the episodes. I'm hoping each episode is only going to be about 30 to 45 minutes. If you were still interested in listening to the spoiler review, this is where the show becomes very important, and this is why I call it post credits, because when we come back after the credit song, I will let you know all about the spoilers. We're going to talk about everything that went on in the film. We're going to break down specific scenes, specific moments, character deaths, character arcs. We're going to go through it all, and we're going to break down all the fine details of what made me like the film, what made me dislike the film, and things that I agree and disagree with in terms of their choices. The The post-credits review is going to be spoiler-filled, so I'll always let you know that it is going to be full of spoilers. So even if you had no interest in the film whatsoever, and you just wanted to know specific details about it to make your decision on whether you wanted to watch the movie when it became streaming, then you can listen all the way through to the end of the episode. The post-credit scene is probably going to take up, the post-credit sequence is going to take up majority of what we're going to be talking about when it comes to the movie. And that leads us to the next talking point. So now that you know the overall layout of the way that the episodes are going to go, we got the first act, second act, third act, and the post-credits review. I'm going to give you a look ahead at what our schedule looks like. So coming up on Tuesday, July 11th, I will be watching Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which is going to be the 8th installment of the Mission Impossible franchise. I love all these movies, so I can't wait for this one. It's already getting glorious reviews. Which means that I won't be able to get my first episode up officially until July 17th, which means the first official review on this podcast will be Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. If I had started it a week earlier, you might have gotten my Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny review, but I could always come back to that later. That's the best part about this whole format, is that if we do hit a dead period where there's movies that I don't want to see in the theaters or a movie no one's talking about, I'll just go back and review some of the recent films that I went to go see. Indiana Jones, for example, the latest Marvel movies, the sky's the limit there. Followed by Mission Impossible on July 17th. On July 24th, I will be reviewing Oppenheimer. On the 20th is when Oppenheimer releases. I want to do the double feature so bad where I watch Oppenheimer and then I go watch Barbie afterwards, or vice versa. But given my work schedule, I'm going to have to choose one or the other, which I think Oppenheimer would be the priority. I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan, so there's no doubt in my mind that I want to see that first and foremost the day it opens in IMAX with the best sound possible. So I can come back on the 24th and review that for you. Now for Barbie, I may go watch it the day after Oppenheimer, since, as I said, I do have the AMC A-List subscription, but I'll be reviewing Barbie on July 31st. That's when the episode of the podcast will be coming up. I'm going to be reviewing these movies one at a time, so Barbie is definitely going to have to wait until the 31st for the episode to come up. I want to give both Oppenheimer and Barbie enough insight and time for me to dissect and break down the films without it being like I'm stepping on each other's toes or that I'm rushing through the episode. I want to literally let each episode breathe for themselves. That's the future. That's what we're going to be looking at going forward. That's our schedule. Now, overall, my goal for this podcast is to be a little bit more active. I want to get a couple filmmakers and reviewers in here. There's a couple buddies I know that still work for Screen Rant that I would love to have on for maybe about a 5 to 10 minute interview on one of the episodes to see what they thought. That's also a goal in mind. I want to get this so active to the point where maybe we could enter the same stratosphere as like a Jeremy Johns or a Chris Stuckman, and maybe perhaps do a video podcast too on YouTube. But for now, I'm completely comfortable with doing an audio only version. It allows me to be a little bit more creative on the other side of things. No pressure of my physical appearance going into making each episode, which is kind of nice. But I do want to take my time with editing these episodes, putting in some musical cues. And if we get to the part where the production starts to become like second nature to me and I get more comfortable, maybe we do a video review and I actually input clips and stuff for you guys. The sky's the limit. I'm really excited about this project. The plan is also to put this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher Radio. So if you subscribe to any of those three podcast networks, I'd appreciate you subscribing and leaving a comment or a like. There's going to be a lot of growing pains here. Some things I may say that may be a little cringy or awkward silences that I'm going to have to edit out. Either way, I'm looking forward to what the future holds. I want to do this every week, and I want to really showcase my passion for film. And once again, I thank you for listening to this first episode. I will see you guys on July 17th for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, starring Tom Cruise. Thank you very much, and go see a movie.